Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Evolution Podcast with Mac and Jenn. Welcome. Glad to see you. Today, we're going to just kind of go back and forth on a kind of a fun topic. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but this is just the question of like, when you're dating, how do you start a conversation? Because we've both been in that situation not too long ago and figured why not refresh on it a little bit so we can give it to other people. I know a lot of times people don't actually know how to communicate or ask a question of like, well, what do you say if somebody calls you, or you start overthinking, and it's usually a lot easier if you just don't really get to thinking or overthinking it and more intentional, I guess would probably be a good way to do it. And Jen just said, I brought it up, and Jen says, well, how do you start a conversation? I was like, say hi. you know, that's how I would recommend getting started with it. So, you know, we're just going to go from there and maybe see if we can't help a few people on being able to start a conversation, even being able to ask direct questions on how to quantify, like, is this person going to be a fit, or are they going to exclude themselves immediately? Most of the mass majority of the conversations that I started, within seconds, I knew whether or not it was going to actually go somewhere. Usually I was still like intrigued, so I would carry a conversation a little further, or maybe even still go on a date, just to be like, maybe they're nervous, maybe it's this, I don't know, but I want to make sure of what this is before I judge it too quickly. And so, yeah, we're going to kind of go into that. So I'm going to ask Jen a question, and then she'll ask me a question. So first question for you.
Okay.
All right. throw you under here.
I don't know. Hopefully I can answer it with
Oh,
justice.
I'm sure we can figure out kind of like what we need to, as far as discernment. So first question is, let's say after the initial hi, how are you, whatever's right. Did you ever have like a question that you would ask that was more like, I want to know something about you or where you're at? Or was there any quantifier that you used that was like, who are
Hmm. That's a really great question.
you? Yeah.
I'm trying to remember back to when I was going out on all those dates if there was like an actual question. And I don't know if there really was, to be
Mm.
honest with you. I remember asking myself a question, and I'm trying to even remember what that question was, but it was like, is this man capable of like leading me?
Mm.
That was the question I asked myself. And I usually was able to discern that by just like observing how they were and the questions they were asking me. So I don't know if there was like an actual question, but there was definitely a lot of qualifiers.
Do you want to get one of those?
I was looking for a man that like didn't party.
Okay. So more of a doesn't do this and does this. So it might even been like, what do you do for fun?
What do you do for fun?
Yeah.
And if
Because
he's like, I watch football and drink beer on the weekends, I was like, all right, well,
click, hit the button.
thanks for your time.
Yeah. So, okay. Awesome. Okay. Do you have a question for me, or should I respond to the question I asked?
Respond to the question. I need help with this.
Okay. So, well, I actually liked your um, like going about it from the standpoint of, can he lead me? And I think another one you had mentioned before was like, can he take me, like, intimately, right? If those two pieces aren't at least somewhere in the realm of like, can he pull this off? Like, he might even be nervous, but can he still pull this off? If you're not seeing that, I'm guessing you're probably kind of moving on at that point.
Yeah, well, we talked about this like once or twice before when I said that like the first question I think that runs through most of our heads that a lot of us won't admit
Mhm.
is like, can he take me in the bedroom?
Mhm.
And if the answer is like yes, then there's like an attraction there, and like we want to know more usually.
Mhm.
But if the answer is no, I think that's when they would immediately just either like you just pass or put them in they go in the friend zone.
Right.
And so that was a question I would, again, ask myself.
It's more like an immediate observation.
Observation.
In some cases.
Yeah. A lot of times I remember going on a date one time and I was asking this guy like random questions. And I don't remember exactly what the questions were, but I felt like every time he answered any of my questions, there was like an energetic question mark at the end of all of his answers, meaning he would answer, but like he was unsure. Like he was answering my questions, but with the like within the energy of, is that okay? Or is that the right answer? And he was trying to give me the answers that he thought that I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I really, really like, I mean, I know I asked questions, but I don't know if I asked like a ton of questions because I was just looking to see I just wanted to know where they were at. And I could tell usually very easily just by the way that they were showing up with me. So, but when the guy was like, asking me questions, or I was asking him questions. I don't know, it could have been things just like, what do you do for fun? What do you, yeah, like just that kind of stuff. And it was like, I grabbed his hand and I looked at him and I said, listen, I said, I want to get to know you. I don't want to get to know the you who's trying to be who you think I want you to be. So just, be yourself, let go. It's fine.
Which was already, he's out because now you're leading him.
Right. Like you trying to be who you think I want you to be is doing both of us a disservice. That's what I told him. I said, it's a disservice.
Yeah. It's a lie. That's what it is.
Yeah. And I knew right then and there, like he probably wasn't the one for me. Like he was trying and it was cute, but like I was already at that point leading him. Is this man capable of leading me? No.
Conversation's over at that point.
Yeah, we had a fun, I think it was like a lunch or something, but like then that was it.
Yeah. Which I mean goes to speak into I mean, that's a good way to get yourself trapped in a relationship, right? Like trying to please the other person or do this, do that. Like that's how you wind up getting resentful, doing things you don't want, hating life, and winding up divorced or worse, doing a bunch of other bad shit. So that's one of the nice things about us is we were just ourselves.
That's another thing that I notice a lot of people are doing these days too, is leading with telling the other person what they're looking for or what they want. So it's like if I were to go out with you and I immediately start telling you like, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want. And then it's like, you get to discern if that's you or not. But I think a lot of times, sometimes if I told you what I was looking for and what I wanted, you would then shift a little bit.
How do you think I would respond to that?
If I were to tell you,
or anyone would tell me what they want,
what I wanted.
Yeah. How do you think that just the natural me would actually respond to somebody, to a woman saying, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want, blah, blah, blah?
I don't know.
Even if it fit like pretty well. How do you think it would go?
I don't know. You tell me.
Because I had it happen.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it was good luck with that.
Oh, good luck with that. Yeah, I think
like the conversation's already done at that point. You're telling me what your expectations are without ever actually experiencing what you're needing. Right? Like I expect this, but yet you've never had it. So you have expectations. And honestly, if I gave them to you right now, like I mean, granted, I'm a coach, so I see this stuff, I deal with it. I'm see like this one time it very loudly happened, and I just kept my mouth shut, to be honest, because it was like, she ain't gonna listen. This will be an experiential type of education that she's going to get from this, which means pain, right? Because anytime you set expectations that you don't even know about, you're going to cause yourself pain. That's just so. Yeah, I was just like, oh, good luck.
I don't think I ever really told you what I was looking for.
No. So to answer the question, right? The questions that, like, one question that stands out more than any of the others for me. And granted, this is after who are you? What have you done? What do you do? What are you interested in? Some of that type of stuff to just kind of get a soft feel. It's, you know, what do you want to do, or what are your dreams, or what are your desires in some form or another, right? Like I'm looking for your growth mindset, right? Like where do you want to wind up? Even if you never get there, I want to know. So when a lot of times when I ask that question, typically this typical answer, well, you know what, I just want to like be here and like and it was like they're backpedaling on their wants, just trying to settle. And I'm like, if you think I want to fucking settle, you've got another thing coming. Like, it isn't happening. So then I would try to solicit more. I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand that. I understand that we all want to have a steady income, to have a nice place, to take care of your kids, to do. We all want those things. But do you have any dreams? Do you have any desires? Do you have anything? And as a guy, I'm like, is there anything I can work towards to like do something incredible? You know, because I mean, why not try to spoil your wife or girlfriend or whatever? Because like I always want to at least be attempting to or working on it, even if I never do. I still want to be able to attempt and grow inside of that and get better and grow. And so if it's like, oh, I just know, I just want I'm like, I don't need a project. Right? Like I don't need to fix your whatever you got going on that has you backpedaling yourself from abundance, because they don't know me. I mean, I could have been able to solve all their problems like that, and yet they're telling me what, like how they're just putting themselves down here instead of saying, well, what would be cool is this. So, you know, which answered something very fast between us, right? And I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to say it again because it's funny. I was same thing with Jen, and I think this is before we actually met in person.
It was before we met.
Yeah. And so we're having a decent conversation. We know we're both growth mindset. We start figuring out there's a connection and different things. I don't think we had figured out that we were both in the same network marketing company at that point.
I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah. So there wasn't a lot of information as far as background in personal development, you know, to know, you know, where somebody's at or how much work they've done.
We were just getting to know each other.
Yeah,
this
just a
wasn't
brief,
within like the first week of us talking.
Yeah, just a brief. We both know we do some personal development, but no, we don't know how much. And I said, you know, and I said, well, what are your dreams? Like, what are your desires? What are your dreams? Just and I'm very direct when I ask these questions. And she laughs. She kind of chuckles a little bit, and I'm like, what? And I'm thinking, well, she's probably gonna tell me something she thinks is crazy or something or whatever. And no, she's like smart ass over here. she goes, well, my small dreams might be bigger than your big dreams. And I'm like, yeah, I heard that, right? Game on. I said, go for it then. Like, what are some things, you know, and I don't even know that you really answered, because it was like a little bit uncomfortable type of thing. So I just went, you know what, let me go. And so then I just laid it like, you know what, here's some of my dreams, and let me start with some of the smaller ones. And they're typically, these are most people's big dreams. You know, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. Now let's go to the second stage, second phase, third phase, fourth phase. And here's my dreams that are out here.
I think though I had like really big dreams, but nobody ever like specifically asked me. So I don't know if I ever actually like had shared them out loud. And so you're like, well, what are they? I'm like, well, I mean, they're, they're there. But yeah, that's really funny.
But there was a piece of you that actually questioned, like, I don't know, like I you know, because you spent a lot of time going through things, writing things down. Like you have had all of it, big dreams, very big, and understandably, like, you know, here's a desire that leads to this, all the way up to big dreams. If you want to go all out, it's limitless.
Yeah, well, I mean, I even think one of my big dreams is it doesn't even feel that big, but it is to like just inside relationship is just to have an amazing relationship
Mhm.
always, always growing inside of that. And I feel like some people don't even think about that.
Yeah. And mine's equally like it's probably one of the most important and most challenging and the most growth. And that, it's a big deal to be able to have a good relationship, work through things, and then grow,
Yeah.
like
So it's
to
not, I mean,
blossom
it's
inside
not
of it.
just like financial dreams and
Yeah.
dreams to travel and dreams to, to do all this stuff. It's like, I want a relation, like my relationship dream is I want a relationship that, other people want.
Yeah. Well, and even then, like one of my dreams is just to be able to create things that actually genuinely change people's lives and transform them. It's like um to get on stage and speak and do a bunch of things, like yeah, that's cool. But what's cooler is if you talk to 10 people and 9 of them are transformed. Like that's like those are my some of my dreams that are a lot harder than you realize, because it really comes down to timing. So manifesting the right person, the right time when they're ready. A lot of different pieces in that, but being so like intentional with it that it really has a high impact. And then yeah, there's the planes, the cars, the boats, the houses, all that stuff. Yeah, that stuff's cool too. We want all of it. But
Writing
it's
a book. You want to
yeah,
write a book?
I might write a book. I don't know.
I'm writing a book.
Oh, you're right. She's writing a book. Look forward to it. It's coming out when June 9th. Sounds good. But just don't know what year. So that was one of my questions, and I want to know kind of where you're at, and it just kind of evolved into this one that was very quick to quantify where, like, if someone was going to be a fit or not, because if you backpedaled, it was pretty much a no. You had to come forward pretty quick. It worked out in my case because I asked a question, she made a statement, I laid it on, in which case she's not leading me. She's like, okay, like, and then afterwards was like, so does that sound like one of your small dreams? And she goes, no, it doesn't.
But it actually made me really excited because like one of the things I wanted inside of a relationship is like I want to be my man's like biggest cheerleader. I want to be the cheerleader,
Yeah.
And I want to, so when he tells me his dreams, like that got me super excited because I'm like, all right, like
Yeah, like this is way like this is looking better than I thought. Right.
yes.
So yeah, that's to me that's a really good question. Under the right circumstances, you just have to keep in mind that when you're asking that question, it might look like, you know, what's something that you've always wanted to do and you just haven't been able to do it yet, but you just, like, if you could do this, it would just make your day. Right. That even that right there can answer a lot of questions, because if they're like, oh, I don't know, I just, and they don't know, they're backpedaling. Now they might be nervous or scared to answer whatever, but again, if someone can't be honest about what they want, are they ready? uh, no, they're not. Okay. Because like being honest is also something that takes courage. And if they don't have courage, then it means you're going to wind up in a relationship that isn't communicating properly. Someone might be shy and you might be able to just soften it and work through that. You may not be soft enough too. Like you might need to work on some stuff. So it's this ability to pull out information, to know, to be able to direct it and be like, am I moving forward with this? And even though I went on several dates, there was certain things where I could tell like this probably isn't a fit, but I would still ask questions and I would try to have a positive impact on the person. And usually later on, I would hear, "Hey, you know what? It really meant a lot when you said those things to me." And it's like random text message I'll get of like, "Hey, I really appreciate when you challenged me on that and made me think different. I went and did this, and this." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." So it's like I felt good because I was still giving, right? I'm still like, let me give, even though you never know. You never know when somebody might be like, wake up and be like, you know what, you're right. And they make a decision in that moment and they go. And so I try to give everybody the opportunity, even, now that I'm married, it's not with a date type situation. It's just with a person. Even if I come across a random guy and whatever, I'm still, hey, well, what are you working on? What do you want? What's this? Well, why not? Why not? And it makes them think different. So always one of my favorite questions with that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I'm like just sitting here thinking about the questions and stuff. And like, I appreciate all the questions that you asked me and like but see, for me, like you were leading the conversation.
Yeah.
And so you were asking lots of questions and really wanting to know so you could discern how
Mhm.
you wanted to move forward. Where for me, it was more like, I don't know if this is just a more like feminine energy thing or if it's just the way that I was showing up different, but like, I don't think I was asking as many questions. I think I was just sitting back and, and discerning by how the person that was in front of me, how they were showing up.
Mhm.
And so, like, if I was sitting with a man who wasn't leading the conversation, like, I immediately knew that, like, it was a no. I didn't need to know more. But, like, there were certain things, like, I had non negotiables. So, like, if I knew that they were a drinker,
Yeah.
but that's easy to tell, like, on the apps, even if, some may lie about it or whatever, but, like, oh, you drink? Like, how much do you drink? Like, I might ask
Mhm.
that because but then I'm like, okay, I need to know because that's a deal breaker. Or like, I'm trying to think what other like deal breakers,
Yeah.
like
So
drinking.
yeah, I initially put down maybe some drinking, and then after I kind of got into it, I was like, why? I don't. Why would I put up with it? Because I mean, one time over the top is enough to destroy everything. It just is. It really doesn't serve. And don't get me wrong, like I really enjoyed it. I'm a high tension person. I have a drink, I become happy, I become fun, but I'm searching to find the me inside that can do that without a substance. And so that's where I'm at.
I also knew I wanted someone it was a deal breaker for if they didn't have a growth mindset, like you were saying. So you
Mhm.
were asking questions like looking for that growth mindset. And I think if you're listening to this podcast, you have a growth mindset.
Yeah.
And it's important, especially if you're dating, to like I think to make it a non-negotiable that the person that you give your energy to also has a growth mindset because it's really difficult to
It
be
just
with someone
yeah,
who isn't if you do.
you just reminded me of the the invitation we got. It so it just it here's a question. If you're a woman and you meet a guy and like you probably don't want to throw this out in the beginning, but you probably, if your growth minded mindset, and you need to know, is he going to hold me back or let me go, or is he going to grow with me? I would suggest finding somebody that's willing to grow, because progress is happiness, and it really does make a big difference. They might not align with some of the things you do, or vice versa, but there has to be something that's generating energy forward to be happy in some way. It could be a physical, it could be an educational, it could be financial, a lot of different things. I mean, just kids and educating them and having fun with them and doing things, it can all be very good. But if you meet a guy and you ask him the question of like, well, let me ask you this, chances are you've probably been through some relationships and different things. If we're having a problem that we can't solve, what would you do to solve it? See how the response is. And if he doesn't have a good response, then most guys will probably be like, oh, I'll probably just apologize because it's probably me, blah, 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 because they're telling you what you want to hear. But it's like, well, what about talking to someone that is a professional in relationships, like a therapist, a counselor, a coach, a consultant, a friend that has the relationship that we want, or seeking out someone that has the kind of thing that we're looking for to get advice, like a sit down conversation, like, where do you stand on that? And if they're like, yeah, yeah, no, like whatever, and they brush you off, you need to walk away. Because here's the thing, if you don't walk away, you just gave him permission to say no. If you say, well, that's not really, you know, maybe this isn't the best fit because I'm not perfect. I'm probably going to cause a problem. Chances are you might as well too. And there's probably at some point in our life something's going to happen, and we might need to seek outside counsel. And if you're not open to it, and the two of us are the ones that are making the problem, there's no way to solve it. I don't think that's going to work. So maybe we should just go our way. In that moment right there, you probably did him the best favor of his life. To be honest, it's a hard thing to do, but you probably just saved either that relationship or the next one for him, or whatever. So do yourself and him a favor and do that. Same goes for the woman. Guys, you need to know, like, are they going to use this weaponized type style, or are they open to the growth of, like, hey, we got to do something different. This isn't working. Like, let's try something different that's more positive, or get rid of some of our baggage, or heal, or whatever. It can go both directions. I've seen it. Like, one of the hardest things about personal development is when you're a coach and you can help both people, but only one of them will listen. It's so challenging. And so you just tell the one person, hey, can you just keep going, just stay strong, just keep going. Trust me, if it's not right, they will leave you. You don't need to leave them. Like, when you elevate yourself and your energy goes too high, they either go, oh shit, and catch up, or they run away and blame you for everything. And it's okay, let them go. Right? Like, just let them go. And so that's a good question. Now, for us, it was a parent, right? Like I'm in the middle of deep dive, hardcore warrior shit, like weekly calls, quarterly events, nonstop, go, plus some other stuff that I do. And you'd been through some training, and you still go through it. We try and hit Tony Robbins events. As much as we can take in, we love it, and it really keeps us bonded together because we're asking good questions all the time. But just because I just had that thought of, like, might be a good idea to qualify this little piece here, even if it can be like church council. That's fine too, like whatever it is.
Well, I think it's just really important to, like, understand, like, what does everybody want, like. And I think most people say, well, yeah, I want a great relationship, I want an amazing relationship, but it's like understanding that it doesn't just happen. Like, it actually takes work. And sometimes, like, if you think you know it all, like, you kind of know nothing. Like, you always seeking, like, that outside, like, support and counsel and mentorship and and that stuff, because we don't know. And if we did,
that's the crazy thing is, like, how could we know?
We've never been taught.
But then we feel all like shameful and embarrassed because oh no, I'll figure it out myself. Like, how? Nobody taught you. Like, that's the whole point. Like, don't do it yourself.
Yeah. And so, it's like they say relationships take work, and they do, but the work is in, like, bettering yourself, like deepening your understanding of yourself and each other, and learning to communicate. Communication takes skill, like understanding how men communicate different from women, and what triggers are, and all these things. It's like, it's stuff we need to learn. And if your partner isn't, if you want an amazing, outstanding relationship full of passion and love and all the things, and you're willing to put in the effort and work for it, and they're not willing to do the same, like, it's really frustrating.
Resentment comes in.
And we're seeing a lot of relationships suffer and also end because one person isn't even willing to hear any outside anything, and they think, I got this, I can do it, we're going to do this, just the two of us, like, I'll be good. And it's like, no, if you knew what you were doing, you'd already be doing it. And so
but you don't understand, I didn't know before, or this or that, it's like,
yeah, it doesn't really work that way. So I was able to tell a lot too by when I was dating. Like if I would start talking about Tony Robbins, like how how they would react to me, like showed me very quickly, like kind of where they were at. And it's like I want someone to go to events with and grow with and do things. And I also want somebody who understands that, like,
Tell the story
what story?
about the guy,
Which guy?
the one that turned it off.
Oh, I was dating this guy for a minute, and I don't we were I wanted to watch the Tony Robbins movie with him just to kind of see and or just show him about Tony's events because he didn't really know. And so we turned on I'm Not Your Guru on Netflix, Tony's movie, and halfway through it, the guy I was dating turned it off and he said, "I think I've seen enough." And in that moment, like my heart sunk to my stomach. And I was like, well, I guess our time here is done. And
Oh,
yeah, that was pretty much like the last time we, even really hung out. But it was like, if you're not even open to watching it's a good movie,
it
like a
is
good
good.
documentary, like
I liked it.
whether you're going to go or not. But it's like, some people I think look at it and they think that, they see it as we're trying, like you're trying to fix them because there's something wrong with them, and like that's not it. It's more like, no, I want to grow with you, like I want us to do this stuff together. But if he wasn't even into it, then it wasn't a good fit, so we had to end it. And I'm just really good at ending things quickly that weren't right for me because I was, making room and getting ready for what was. And had I tried to make things work with him or any of the other guys that I knew, it wasn't right. I just would have been like, again, blocking what was. And it would have been a very frustrating life for me because it would have been me trying to change these guys and be who I wanted them to be rather than, loving them for who they were, and then them getting upset because I'm over here trying to change them. And so it had just been frustrating. So it was like I had to always have to, end things quickly so I can continue on to make room for what is, which is why I did go out with quite a few guys before I met Mac, because I was like, just quickly. It wasn't like I'd meet one and try to make it work. I wasn't making anything work. I was, allowing it to happen when it was right. And then that's why when it was right and you came along, like it just been working. And I was telling somebody the other day, like I have a long, long, long relationship vision that Mac has never even read. And why didn't you read it? You told me one time. Do you remember why? Or why don't you want to read it?
I don't remember the exact words, but which you may not be asking questions out loud, but because of the relationship vision, constantly asking questions and getting answers. Probably actually just like like most of the way through it was just getting answers. Like I just kept answering the things that were on the papers.
Mm-hmm.
And forever I didn't even know it was there. And then she had it and she's like, "Do you want to read it?" And I was like, "No." And and part of it, I look at it now as like, well, because I don't want to play into it. I just want to be myself. And when I'm myself and I'm answering that relationship vision, I know it's exactly what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm just gonna be honest. And there's days when I'm like, I don't know who would actually like this or deal with this or handle this even. I'm just gonna lay it down and see what happens. And she's like, okay, or she likes it. And it's like, what the fuck? So it's kind of crazy how it plays out, but it's also very beautiful. And it's a real strong show of faith for me of saying, God, give me this. And he provides. Done. I don't need to read a piece of paper. I had a very strong feeling that I was seeking on what I wanted. And I just kept going for that. That was my, like, if I had an internal question, I was like, what's this feeling? But it's like it's in alignment with what the feeling I want to go after. Now direct, yeah, I want to ask questions, and I think this is a form of leading, right? Me asking direct questions, even to the point of sometimes, I asked her some specific questions about her body and kind of hammered her on it once, very early on and was like, how are you going to respond to this? Because I don't want, like, I don't need baggage with, you know, does my butt look big or this or that, or does this do this, or like weird questions and stuff. I was like, no, I don't want, like, don't ask me stupid questions. Like you know, don't try to get me to tell you a lie, you know, because I won't. I'll tell you the truth. And so I'm just myself. I'm nice, you know. Granted, like there's a lot of like beautiful features that she has that I really enjoy. So made it easy. And sometimes that's a conversation piece too. You know, like if I was searching for words or anything else, it takes a bit of courage as a guy sometimes to just be direct and honest. And so you should be like, well, say something or whatever. And I would just have no thoughts in my head at the moment on what to say. And so I would just say something that was kind. And it takes courage to do that, to just be like, you know, you just have the most beautiful eyes. You know, like that's a true statement. Um, I'm just being honest. When there were certain times when she gave me feelings inside that most guys won't talk about. And I just said, you know, I feel this. And it was a compliment. And so it lifts her because I'm willing and having the courage to speak shit that I can't explain. Mm-hmm. And it feels kind of weird when you're not used to it, but like I've had some training in it. I'm just like, what if I just like reveal everything about me? And also, in the beginning, I told her exactly who I was. There wasn't any, what are your intentions with me type. Some, I think we saw this recently where some woman was asking, well, what are your intentions with me type of thing. And it's like, if you ask me that question, like, I'd be like, to take you home right now. Like, cause like you clearly have some trauma and some baggage to deal with. Because if you can't tell my intentions based on my energy, we have a problem.
I responded to that and I said that you don't need to ask what their intentions are. And in fact, I don't know if you should, because you can see that what their intentions are by the way they show up. It's very easy and to recognize when you're ignoring what your intuition is telling you versus what, or just seeing
getting caught up in it.
Getting caught up in it because we really want it sometimes, so we're like, and so we try to force things that aren't necessarily right for us. But if we're trying to force them to show up different, their intentions are not to marry us, right? It's like we don't want to force them. Like, that's what I say, like a man will show you his intentions.
I actually told you my intentions from like the beginning. You know, I was pretty much like, hey, just so you know, this is what I've been through. This is what I'm going through. What I'm looking to do right now is to find a best friend.
Your intention in the beginning was not to marry me.
No, to see if you were potentially worth marrying, but it was like, no, I'm right now. I'm not looking for sex. I'm not looking for this. I'm looking to get to know you and find a best friend, or in my case at the time, like many best friends if I could. You know, it was like I'm talking to everybody. You know, like I don't know what I don't know.
Many best friends.
And yeah, the problem is that women can't do that apparently. Like I try to be kind and just help them and give them something, but if you're not going to date them, they're all pissed off and they run away. It's like, why can't you act like an adult? So I mean, she crushed them because she's the one that acted most rational, reasonable, clearest mind, like could take on anything, think it through, and handle it, because she was very certain in herself. So her confidence was very high. My confidence is very high. That's something you get when you actually live holistically, as in you're good with your body, you're good with your spirituality, you're honest, you're not lying, and you're just doing your thing. So the intentions were made clear very quickly. I told her exactly where I was. Probably even told you all the bad shit I'd done, just to be like, just so you know, like if you go looking, this is what you will find. Like I've got these stories here, this here, this here, like no red, like that. I will show you the red flags so that you know they're there, and then you can go look for yourself and discern it from there. I don't care, because here's my stance. If that throws you off now, me even talking about it, we're not a match. I just let me go.
It's like more important, I think, for a woman to, if your intention, like if I wanted to get married and he's telling me my intention is just to be best friends with whoever, um, that I mean, I could have quickly just ended things right there because like our intentions didn't line up right
Hmm.
away. But then it's like if you're attached to the outcome, like attached to marriage, you might be discerning and choosing kind of like wrong as opposed to attaching. Like I attached to the feeling that I wanted with my ideal man. And I didn't know he was my ideal man in the very beginning, but I was so attached to the feeling that I had throughout my entire relationship vision of how I want to feel. And that's why I kept showing up with Mac, and it led to the marriage.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know until 30 days before we got married, like all the way. Like I knew a lot of pieces, but it took me stepping back and being like, what are we doing? Or what am I doing?
So
And
that's why if we, as women, like lean back a little bit and pay attention to how they're showing up and how we're feeling and just following that and staying with that, um, I think of like they will look at you like, oh my God, this girl is so different. And then he will want to marry you because you're not trying to lead, you're not being the masculine energy in the relationship. Like you are observing what's happening and you are just following your feeling, and that is attractive, right?
yeah,
Is an attractive quality in a woman. And but it's also, while you're observing, it's important to do the whole like discerning, like we were talking about, and like recognizing what your deal breakers are, and then when those things come up, ending them right away, so you're practicing for the one, but you're you continue to let go of what's not right for you so you can, you know call him in. But with every one that you date, even if it's just one date, you're practicing for the one. You're showing up as if you already had everything you wanted.
and discernment for the rednecks out there means don't assume, right? Like if and when I say rednecks, I mean the people that are traumatized, dealing with baggage. You've got your own problems, like you're trying to work your way through, but you still want a relationship. Really don't, like, you cannot start assuming because she or he did this, it means this. It
Right.
doesn't. And in order to not do that, you have to have some level of emotional strength and integrity to not lose it or jump to conclusions. um, weird stuff usually happens. And so a lot of times there might have been something. I think there were times when she would say something or do something, and I'm like, this, like, it just doesn't add up for what I'm looking for, right? I don't I don't know. Let me frame this correctly. It's like, this is what I'm going, this is what I want. This woman is in my presence. It doesn't make sense to me. So rather than assume that she is something, I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me, but I'm expecting God's going to give me what I'm looking for. So why don't I just make sure it is or it isn't? So then I ask questions. What do you mean by that? And she would, she said something or didn't say something, I'd be like, well, what do you think about this? What do you mean by that? Very basic, simple, stupid questions, but with no energy around it, because I'm like, I don't know. I'm just not going to assume. I'm just going to ask very directly. And it's like, oh wow, that's refreshing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and a lot of times people get in these games of like, oh well, he's supposed to do this or she's supposed to do that, or I don't know. And there's all these assumptions that, as a coach, when I start asking these people, wait, did they say that specifically? Did they say that? Well, no. Okay, so everything you just complained to me about and everything you just said is actually all bullshit and false. You just wasted our time for 15 minutes. And they're like, I'm like, send them a text message right now and ask them, say these words right here. Always I get a different response. Okay, so do not assume on things. Make sure, right? To discern does not mean to take the facts that you have without asking any questions and then discern that and try to make it into something, because that's still an assumption. It's like, well, I think that she doesn't like guys with bald heads. I could say that, right? Like, because I shave my head, you know. So if that was my conclusion based on something I saw or whatever, well, why wouldn't I just be like, hey, do you like that I shave my head, or hate it, or is it a deal breaker, or what is it? That, like, and that's how I am. I'm like, is this a deal breaker for you or not? Because I need to know. And she's like, no. Well, do you like it or hate it? Well, I don't, you know what? I don't know what, if that topic actually ever came up, but obviously it's not a problem. So, but it's things like that where I would just ask rather than assume that there's a problem or something else. And then I would just know. And now I don't have to worry about it. It's out of my mind. The faster I could take problems and get them out of my mind, the like I just, that's the great thing about being impatient, when you can do it in that way. And just saying, hey, there's something that's conflicting in my mind right now. I'm impatient. I want to know now. Can we figure it out now? Now, if there's triggers, you might want to back off a little bit. But if there's not triggers, it's just like, well, what do I got to lose? It's honest. It's truth. Like, I just want to know, hey, do you have a problem with me shaving my head? No. Perfect. Good. Now I know. I don't have to go create stories about this anymore. I'm done. And so that reflects on everything. But let's kind of back up a little bit. Any suggestions as far as how might you start a conversation? Just trying to give some people like some advice.
Well, I mean, when we were online, this is how we started the conversation. Well, you messaged me, but I messaged you and I said, I think you look like somebody I need to know.
Yeah. And that was probably a mix of looks and the growth mindset stuff that was written.
It was your profile. We met online. And if you don't know the story, we did do a podcast.
Yeah, there is one.
It's called Love Story. There's 2 parts. We can add more parts, I'm sure. But but I said, I think I just said, you look like somebody I need to know.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it was just like, no, you look like a guy that should be in my world, because you have a growth mindset. He was wearing a Tony Robbins hat. It was like, we could be friends.
I wish we would have kept some of the messages just to see what was actually kind of said there.
I don't know if we can go back and find those ones or not, but yeah, that would be cool.
But
you look like somebody I need to know.
And what about as far as like waiting for the guy to start the conversation versus the girl to start the conversation? What do you think about? What's your opinion on that?
My opinion is if you are a woman and you feel like you want to start the conversation, or if you feel like you want to send the text or reach out, you should do it. I think some people will say, if we're looking at the guy supposed to lead, and they may say, no, you never send the first text, you never do this, you never do that. I do not agree with that. I think if you want to, you do it. And the reason is because if it's on your heart and you're following your heart and you want to send the text, just send the text. And if he doesn't like it, or responds negative to you sending the first text or whatever, then perhaps he's just not the one. But if you want to send a text first, if you want to, and you tell yourself not to do it, you're not doing it because you're trying to control how he sees you or his reaction, or how it's a slight form of, I wouldn't call it manipulation, but that right there is masculine energy, because you are trying, if you don't send it because you're trying to control how he sees you by not sending it, that's masculine there. So it's like, you just send it. If you want to send it, just send it. Who cares? And however, if he doesn't if he doesn't respond in a way that makes you feel good or whatever, then you either he's just not the right one. But what you want to do is you want to just be yourself.
Be yourself, be honest.
And if being yourself is sending the text, just send it.
Yeah.
Who cares? And because the goal, you don't want to try to you don't, the worst thing you can do is try to change who you are to control how he sees you. Yeah.
And here's the thing. I know for me, and I would assume other guys, even though it's an assumption, apologize, but even though you might send a signal, I don't know, right? Like I don't always know if it's a signal or whatever. So I don't know if you're in a relationship. I don't know if what any of it. So if you feel like you want to approach something, just be honest. You can just say, hey, I just want to approach you, and like, are you single or whatever, and just ask, or begin to fill it out. And even if it's like, are you single, and the guy's like, yeah, I'm single, then it's like, okay, well, I just want you to know I'm looking at you. Feel free to make the next move, and or I would like you to engage me, or something. Give permission, because in the world today, it's such a clusterfuck on like how you're supposed to act or do this, or is she or is he, and it's confusing. And if I'm working and I'm doing the things that most women want, my focus is not necessarily on how do I approach this person today, unless I'm actively making sure that I'm doing something active every day, so goes to both sides, like guys, if you get a look, well, don't be a bitch, walk up and say, hey, I saw you looking at me. Was that a genuine look, or were you just entertaining yourself? Like, don't assume. Like if you see a woman look at you or react to you or text you or message you or anything, be honest. Don't be sarcastic. Don't try and brush it off. Don't play a game. Just genuinely be like, hey, I saw you looking at me. You're attractive. Was that a look of we should have a conversation, or was that just a and I should keep going that way? Which is it, right?
That reminds me of the guy that followed me home from the gas station one time. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I kind of remember it.
Can I tell it really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
He I think he was walking in as I was walking out or something, and I smiled at him because I smile at everybody usually. And so I smiled at him. I got in my car and started driving home, and I felt like somebody was following me. And so I didn't know though, but I just felt it, and so I pull into the neighborhood and I sit there because I didn't want to go all the way home, because if I was being followed, I didn't want to be followed to my house. So I just sat there in my car for like less than a minute. And next thing you know, this guy pulls up right next to me. And I roll down my window, and he rolls down his window, and from the car, he's like shouting, he's like, hey, he's like, I saw you back there, and like you smiled at me, and just, can I get your number? And I was like, I kind of like looking at him, and I'm like, how old are you? And he was only 23 or something, 23. And I was like, I was like, I think you're a little young for me. I said, but like, it's cute that you were proactive. I think those might have been the actual words I used.
Yeah.
You were proactive, and like I appreciate that, but like you're just too young for me or whatever. And he was like, okay, like thanks, and he drove away. But it was funny because like I wouldn't say like follow women home
No,
from the gas
don't, like, either make
station.
your move in the moment, or say thanks God and thanks for the smile, I'm gonna move on.
But the fact that this like young man like had the kind of like
Courage.
the courage to
Go find out.
to find out. I was like, I know a lot of us would be seriously weirded out by that. It is kind of weird, but I was like, props. Like
No.
that was good.
maybe you should have actually a little quicker.
But still,
Gotcha.
he's still learning, but that was
Yeah.
really good. So I was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So don't get weird, but be honest and just try to, and here's the thing, you don't have to have perfect words.
And most guys are so scared these days too, that like if you were to just approach her and be honest, like that's like huge.
Yeah.
That shows confidence, it shows certainty, it shows it shows so
And don't
much.
let one like negative pain in the ass like deter you if she's like no, and does something weird. Just call her a bitch and move on.
It's okay. No,
I'm
don't call
just,
her. No,
I'm
it's
just
it's just remembering that, if not this, something better and more aligned is coming.
Yeah. And you're just learning, and like if you can go through a little bit of rejection and just keep going and just be like, okay, thanks, and you move on. Like honestly, that like even if somebody was like snotty and whatever, you're just like, okay, thanks, just thought I'd check, but clearly no. And you just walk away. It's gonna wreck their day too if they're a pain in the ass. But um just continue, right? Okay, not it. Next. Okay, not it. Next. And one of the tables I like to flip on this is you're not trying to sort through 7+ billion people on the planet. Okay. You're not. You're trying to find one of billions of people. You're trying to find one, which means you don't have time to waste with someone's opinion, what someone thinks, whether they do or don't. You should be thanking them for the rejection. Because it's like you're like, I don't have my, like, even in my whole life, if I met every person, I don't have enough lifespan to meet every person in the world that has a potential fit here. So I need to eliminate things very rapidly. Like very quickly I went, no, no drinking, nope. Growth mindset, absolutely. Um, just some things where I went, no, 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 yes, 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 yes. Like parameters that are like hard boundaries. Like I don't have time. Like I know I don't want this. I'm done. I'm out. Let's move on. And then some softer ones, and then some even softer ones, and then looking for what I don't know and staying open, but staying connected to a feeling. But when it comes down to starting the conversation, it doesn't matter what you say, because the right person will respond to you even if you're stumbling and tripping, or you can't speak or whatever. That perfect person for you is there, and that's the one you're looking for. So if you get the wrong response, question answered, move on.
And if you just look at it like, I'm practicing for the one.
Yeah.
And so you just keep getting better and better. How do you and what do I say? You don't attract the one, you become the one. But how do you attract the needle in the haystack, which is the one?
You become the biggest magnet.
You become the most powerful magnet, which means you just continue to grow and better yourself, and like you will pull her.
Do you know what the most powerful thing you can do is? Like vibrationally?
Share us.
To be authentic.
That's what I say, be yourself.
Yep. Yeah. Authenticity is by far the most powerful vibrational frequency, and that requires telling the truth, being honest, having courage, speaking up, just being you. So maybe you struggle in that, you work on that, continue to get better and better, practice on other people, use them as your guinea pigs, not as your deterrent.
And what happens, well, we should end this pretty soon, but what happens when you become the most powerful magnet is you literally attract everything, which is why discernment
and why you need boundaries
is key. You have to be, because knowing what you want, because they will all
it's hard when you find something great and you get a feeling that's like, this isn't it, but you feel so good, especially if you've been through some stuff, right? And this person's so loving and caring, and it's like, I don't want to let this go, this is hard, and you're like, no, and then it hurts. It's okay, because what's coming next is way better. Trust us when we say, like, if not this, then better, is such a key component of this whole process. So I know we didn't talk a whole lot about how to start a conversation or what to do, but I think you can gather like a good grip on just, hey, you have to have a direction that's going to guide you so that you can know quickly and then advance it from there. Like taking steps, asking yourself questions. Are we moving in this? Are we growing in this? Or is this just like us fulfilling some needs? Are we sedating with each other? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? Like, do I even know what I want? Well, I mean, there's some things where I know, but I'm not sure. There should be some clear direction in there somewhere. And both of us more or less worked on a feeling that we were looking for. She had a 20-page checklist that I had to somehow magically fit, which God took care of. Okay.
It wasn't just a checklist. It
I know,
was
I'm just kidding.
it was literally 20 pages of how do I want to feel? What does it look like? How do we
Checklist.
communicate? Yeah. But it's like, but I you it's like it's not just you, it's like I have to be a
Yeah.
certain me to fulfill this vision
Mhm.
as well.
And the best part about it is just the authenticity of me just being honest and being who I am and everything else. I don't have to ever worry about like, is she gonna love me because she finds out whatever? Or what if I am not having fun and I want to change things up? I just do it, and then it's like we just figure it out. It's usually like to both our benefit. So I don't worry about this stuff. And she's like, she should be doing the same thing. Like whatever makes you happy, do it. Like it'll work. Trust me, because God put us together.
There are some like specifics in the relationship vision that he doesn't know about really, but he does. And every time he does, or like we're doing something that I had wrote down, we're doing it together, I like give myself a little smile inside, and I just like remember, I'm like, I created this, like I manifested this.
See, and that's even better because like without me knowing, every time it comes up and she thinks about it, it reminds her
This is
like
everything I
and
wanted.
and I get like she's going to look at me in a very different way than if she knew that I knew and that I'm doing it because I know.
I have everything that I
It's
want.
magical.
I have, because I didn't settle. I figured it out, and 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 did pretty much everything we talked about here,
Yeah.
and let go of what wasn't right for me, finally to get to you, and you just keep showing up, and so it's so good.
Yeah. But it can be hard to let go, but just do it. Have
It
better
is.
questions and get those questions out there to be like, are you the one in the billion?
Because there's so many great men out there and so many great women out there, and like everybody is going to be great, but like are they great for you? I
Mhm.
don't know. Like you get to decide, but
Yeah.
it's like
So we're gonna wrap that up right now. We got some more stuff coming and some cool trainings that we're working on around this, on being able to define and know just with such certainty of like yes or no or whatever. And so cool things happening. If you haven't checked it out, check out the other podcasts. We have a membership and there's other things going. We now have a like women's only call once a month or twice a month, depending.
right now, well, this month we did it once. We might, maybe next month we'll have two calls for the women,
So
maybe.
that's a women's only call that really helps when I see it actually affect women. Whereas if I'm training them, I can say something, and then sometimes when she says it, they get it. Or sometimes when I say it, it's different. But we have women's only, we have the everybody call membership. This is all membership stuff, and then you're doing a book study,
A
right?
book
Still going
study.
on.
Yeah, we're almost finished with the book that we're on right now, which is the Four Agreements.
Okay.
And we're going to start another book
Yeah.
probably as soon as that one's
Right after.
over.
Okay.
And I haven't decided on the book yet, but I've got some really good ones.
Awesome. And then I also do a men's call, men only, just to have that connection between men. um it's a little bit different. We just have a different energy, a different thing happening, so it's good to have that space sometimes to just have a conversation about like, hey, what about this, what about that, or speak our minds, not, and nobody gives a shit because nobody's going to get triggered around it. So those are the things that we got going on right now. That, like I said, I'm working on a project that I'll be able to launch soon and actually give to everybody. But right now, membership, get a steal on it where you get, if you show up and participate, you can actually get one-on-one time with us for a very good deal. And then your only women, only men calls, extremely powerful. And the people that are consistently showing up are seeing things in their lives rapidly change, from their finances to their relationship to their physical bodies, spirituality, everything across the board. We don't like leave anything untouched if it needs to be, healed or corrected. So very cool stuff. Yep, we're gonna end it at that. Everybody have a wonderful day or night or wherever you're at, and make sure you if you watch this, hit that like or share it, or help us out, get the message out, and get more people, good people like you, in the community, so that you guys can work together. It's always more fun when you get to know like-minded people. It's very powerful as well, energetic manifesting. All right, have a good one.
Right.